do that. So this is the part of the course where, just like reminder, this is the part where we learn about DOM manipulation, which, if you remember, it's like using a hand screwdriver to build stuff with, which sometimes you do that. Sometimes you twist the hand screwdriver and that's how you put things together. But if you're building houses, you're probably not doing that, right? You're using a power drill. In a gun shape. Power drill. So we are going to spend 3 weeks learning how to use a hand screwdriver, learning how a screw works, learning a hand screwdriver, and then we're going to move up a level and not think in those tiny pieces anymore. So we're only going to do DOM manipulation for these 3 weeks, and then we're going to move to React, where you do not do DOM manipulation. React does the DOM manipulation for you, and you just tell React generally what to get done, and it gets it done. So just like something to keep in mind with this. Now, there are times when you got to get in there and do really detailed work, and then DOM manipulation is what you need. But if you were building React apps, you do not do DOM manipulation. They do not mix. We pretty much, I mean, like little tiny sprinklings of it do. There's little pieces of it, I guess, that do. But generally speaking, we don't do DOM manipulation once we hit React. But there are times, and it's very important to understand that so we can build on top of it. But something to keep in mind, I would say the most important part about the next 3 weeks is not falling behind. Don't have to understand DOM manipulation 10 different ways, because React is probably what we're really going to build stuff in. But try to just keep up in the class, let it slowly absorb, cook your noodle, get like a little bit of a sense of DOM manipulation and some comfort with it, so that as we move to React, you have an understanding of what's happening under there. Sound good? We got this. Ask lots of questions. We got 3 weeks, and like there's not 3 weeks of new material. There's just 3 weeks of hard material, of the same hard material. So there is lots of time for questions. You know, there's lots of time. You know, sometimes in week 3, I just talk about Git because we don't, or sorry, week, was it 12? I'll just talk about like new Git stuff just because there isn't new material. So ask all your questions because we'll for sure have time for them over the next 3 weeks. Week 12, there tends to be less to talk about because there's not new stuff. So it's like the only week where there's no new material. It's just working on your project and getting questions and getting ready for React. So let's do this. First, we got to talk about the DOM. We're learning DOM manipulation. What even is the DOM? What the DOM? It stands for document object model, but nobody cares. The point of the DOM is so that the JavaScript and the HTML can talk to each other. It's like an interpreter. Or it's like a model, which I guess then does matter. This does matter. We do care that it's called document object model because it's a model of the document. It's a model of the HTML built out of objects. It's like, have you ever made like a bridge out of spaghetti? We are going to. I had to do it. Heather's looking at me like I'm crazy.
I mean, have you? It sounds like you have, and I assume that it's before the noodles cooked, because we're cooking the noodles.
Yes.
I'm hearing you say that, and then you're like, and then building bridges out of SpaghettiOs.
Just spaghetti, not SpaghettiOs.
No meatballs.
Bridges out. No meatballs in the bridge. So, a bridge out of spaghetti would be a bridge spaghetti model. This is a document object model, a model of the document made out of objects. Bridge spaghetti. To me right now.
Together. This makes more and more sense all the time.
Or maybe it makes less and less sense if my metaphors don't make sense to you. But that's what I got. The document object model is a model of the HTML. So HTML is built with like tags and attributes, and it's like nested inside each other and all that crap. JavaScript doesn't speak that language. It doesn't really understand that. So JavaScript is like, could you make that objects and properties for me, please? It's kind of like how we try to learn this stuff and our brains are like, what? And then I make pictures of it and that helps them. JavaScript wants to understand the HTML. Oh, by the way, I like to share this and I forgot to before class. JavaScript wants to understand the HTML, but it needs it translated into objects for it to understand it. let me just start. What is it, week 10? So blah, blah, blah. There we go. Yeah. So the browser makes a little model of the HTML out of spaghetti, out of objects, and says, look, JavaScript, now does this make sense? And JavaScript says, thank you so much. It makes perfect sense now. So then JavaScript can get information out of it. Remember when we'd like go inside like an array of objects and we can like go get data out of it? It's somewhat similar to that. We can go inside there, get the data we need from it. Like if we're like, hey, what's in that text box? We can go inside the document object model and ask what's in the text box. We can also change it. So the JavaScript can say, hey, take that, put it over here, make a new thing and put it right there. And it makes the changes to the document object model. And then the browser says, awesome, and makes those changes actually to the HTML. So it's like if you make a spaghetti model of a bridge and then you use spaghetti to say, but then we put another little thing right here, and the architect looks at that and says, done, and goes and makes the bridge that way. Is that how people make bridges? I feel like, yeah. They make spaghetti models of it and plan out what they're going to do, and then they go do it.
And then the spaghetti is the translator?
Yeah. The spaghetti is the objects. I don't know. I don't know. The metaphor is getting away from me, okay? But
got this.
That is what the DOM is. And so DOM manipulation is going into that DOM, moving things around, and then the browser will make those changes to the HTML. Any questions? That's it. We're done. That's all we need to know for things. Just kidding. It gets crazy though. Let's talk a little bit about what that shape ends up looking like. What is the DOM look like? Here's one way you could visualize it, if it's helpful. It's not like an array of all the things in the DOM. It's a tree. So it's like there's parents, and the parents have children, and the children have children, and it's like a whole tree structure. So like in this scenario, we have an HTML element that has two elements inside of it, head and body, and those are like little children of it. So we got, a whole situation. And then the head has two children, title and meta, and the title has one child, which is the text, your page title, text. These are all called nodes. Who knows why? We just call them that. It's just the thing. They'll be called nodes or like elements or whatever, but when we're talking about them in a DOM, we call them nodes. Over here, we call them elements. Now, I have a link. I remember last time I thought it was being a little funky, but let's see if it's there. Are you still there for me? You are. Oh, thank you. So here's a little thing that helps you visualize it. This is just a visualizer. This isn't like what it is. It's just like a way to visualize it. So this is a fun little link that lets you put in whatever HTML you want, and then it shows you what is happening to my throat right now.
You need that ginger tea. What is this? It's the D3 DOM visualizer. Duh.
It's obviously it's a D3 DOM visualizer. It's just a little app somebody made that was like, hey, it might be nice, help you understand. So I made one by hand over here that just lets us kind of visualize what the DOM sort of mentally looks like. Just like I make pictures of arrays, this is a little picture of a tree. And the tree is what is actually, that's a bunch of objects all connected together with properties and things.
Does it do anything when you type the stuff in the terminal?
Yeah, if you like change it down here.
Yeah.
You can change things down here. You can put a new like paragraph in and then do update, and it puts in the
Ooh.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
If you're like, yeah, if you're kind of struggling to think, if you're kind of struggling to like look at some HTML and understand what that would mean in terms of what sort of DOM would get made from that, you can put it in here and it will make you one. Again, this is just one way to visualize it. But there's a very important thing to know about the DOM. It comes back to the theme that I harp on a lot, which is that computers are stupid. They do stupid, stupid things. Here's something you might notice. So here's the body, right? Well, let's look at the head. Here's the head. the head has the meta and the title in it. But what are these ugly, ugly yellow things? Where are those coming from? Those children do not exist. These are little ghost children. Where did those come from? We got the meta and the title. Does someone have a question? That disappeared. Was your question what those yellow things are? Hopefully I missed a question.
Yeah, my question was what the different colors mean.
Oh yes, good
Ooh,
question.
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It looks like blue are normal nodes. Yellow, we're about to talk about. Purple is a comment. Those end up in the DOM too. And green is a text node, like the text DOM visualizer or the text Twitter or BioUB or whatever. The green ones are text. Now the yellow ones
Are also text.
They are. They're a special kind of text. So if we look at the head, it says there's one of those, and then the meta, and then one of those, and then the title that has some text inside, and then one of those. Those are white space. They are nothingness. And that HTML does not pay attention to those, right? Yet they are put in the DOM. Who knows why? It's stupid, and that is what it is. So this right here is this bit of empty space, the enter and the two tabs. If I take it out, you can see that one goes away. So I could get rid of all those annoying yellow guys by just putting all of my code all on one line. Don't do that. But that's how you can sort of get rid of them. And now it looks more normalish without those annoying yellow guys. So these are called blank space nodes, and they are purely annoying. There was no other purpose to them but to be annoying. So it's just very important to be aware of that. We don't want to like actually write our HTML. What you want to make sure is that when you are writing code that manipulates the DOM, that code can't be broken by the fact that there are blank space nodes in there. So there's a couple different ways that we handle that, and we can look at that as we look at how we get in there, but something to file in the back of your brain. Any questions? Yeah, Rosie.
So then I guess why are there those blank spaces? Is there reasoning behind that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Such a good question. And no, I've never heard a reason. I think the reason is they were put in there a very long time ago when people were dumb and didn't know what would be annoying. And then nobody took them out for fear of breaking old code. Because if you suddenly took them out, it could now break people's code that's out there on the internet. So they just left them in to be annoying. Yeah, but they're stupid. There is no purpose to them. I can't possibly think, because HTML doesn't care about this space. Doesn't mean anything to the page, right? Yeah. They're so annoying. Okay. It's one of my pet peeves. It's blank space notes.
That part's kind of confusing, but that's okay.
Well, why there's blank space notes? Yeah, no, there's not a good reason. I don't have a good reason. They are just the space between things, for no other reason than because they are. Now, remember that we don't tend to work at this level anymore. So when we get to React, you never have to think about blank space nodes again. React worries about them for you, so you don't have to. There's also a lot of good ways to kind of avoid having to even think about them by using certain tools as opposed to others, and I will highlight that as we continue on. Any other questions? Okay, so we've now talked about the DOM. Hopefully you have a vague sense of what the DOM is. We're just gonna build up a vague comfort with it. So now the question is, that's all great, but what are we doing with it? How are we actually manipulating things? How are we actually getting those changes to show up? All that kind of stuff. So typically we're trying to do something. Let's take this live. This is a big old blank thing. Isn't that pretty? Let's imagine text, and then we'll have a little button here that will say, I don't know, and then we're gonna have a little URL here. Let's imagine that we want to make a little app that, not in Arabic, what is happening? We want to make a little app that when you like type something in here and hit add, that it adds it to the list. You know, like a little list making app, you know, like you could like put in like I need I don't know, butter or something like that. And so you would type butter in right here, hit add, and then this would happen. A new butter element would get added, right? A little tiny baby app. That sort of functionality is at the core of a lot of apps, actually. If you think about Slack, it's essentially that. You type in a little text box, you hit a button, it shows up in the list, right? It's kind of a more complex version of it, but essentially that is what is happening. You delete it and it goes away. That is what is happening in many apps. We're typing in some kind of text box, we're hitting some kind of button, it's showing up somewhere. So if we want to do this, what code do we need to write so that it works, right? So that instead of it already having butter here, we can now add butter to that list. This is the questions that we are faced with. Here is our little toolbox, little tools. At least in my brain, here's how I kind of divide them out. We have a bunch of different tools that allow us to do different things, like find DOM nodes, read things from a DOM node or update things on a DOM node, create DOM nodes, move DOM nodes, delete DOM nodes, and listen to DOM nodes. Listen to users' actions on a DOM node. This one is the most important because this one we will continue to use in React. Heads up. These will all be done for you in React. This one is still a part of React. It's an essential part. Pretty much any app with a user interface, any app that works with the user, any code you're writing that interacts with the user, some kind of event listeners is what they're called. Some kind of event listeners need to happen, even in other languages. We need to have some way to sort of listen, to say like, hey, if the user types the letter A, let me know. Or if the user clicks here twice, let me know. The user types here, let me know. We can ask the HTML to tell us if the user does something in some part of the page. We're gonna circle back to this one. So these are our little tools that can allow us to make any app under the sun, basically. These are the tools. If you think about it, now this app is very complex, but if we come in here, what happens when it's crazy looking. Let's inspect this one. There we go. These are all the messages. Let's see. Message. And if I make a new one, we're gonna get a new div right here. So it read from this text box to find out what text was in there, made a new div right here, created a new div, moved it right here, set up that new div so that it had all the text and stuff it needed to inside of here. It's insanity because this is a very complex app, but set it up so that it has the text this in its side of it, put that into the page. That's how the app works. If I come right here and do delete message, it just removed, it just removed that whole div from the page. So we are doing reading and updating, creating, moving, deleting, finding actually would be part of that too. We'll talk about that, but these are the pieces that make apps work. Any app under the sun, this is the pieces that make it work. So one of the main goals of this is to try to help your brain think about, if you have a goal, I want to make a shopping cart app or something like that, to start to try to think about how can I break making that app down into tasks that can be solved by these tools. That's kind of one of the goals that we have. It's really hard and you won't be like, oh, now I'm great at it in 3 weeks, but stretching your brain against that is a solid thing to do. So let's talk about the first tool, which is finding. You pretty much always have to do some finding because if you think about it, this is a humongous page, right? And when I make a new message, I don't know if someone in this channel is going to be like, what is happening? Because I keep making messages and deleting them. But if I make a new message and I hit send now, my JavaScript needs a way, when I click this button, my JavaScript needs a way to go find this text box, right? It needs to go find, where is that exact text box? And all of this crap, where is that? And we come in here, I don't even know that it is a text box. It looks like it's a paragraph, but it's basically a text box. We'll pretend. Needs a way to go find that and say, hey, what's in you? What do you got? So it can get that text. It also needs a way to find this thing. Let me inspect this really quick. It needs a way to find this big old container here. Where is it? This thing with all these messages inside of it. These messages are all in this div right here. It has all the messages in it. So when we want to make a new message, we've got to find that div and put our new message div inside of it. So there's two things we have to find to set something up like this. We have to find the text box that they're typing the new stuff in, find the spot where the thing will get put, and then we can take the text in the text box, make a new message, put it in there. That's the goal. So, finding. There's a lot of different ways to find. Here's the way you should use 99% of the time. Document.getElementById. Just like in CSS, we pretty much always use class selectors. In DOM manipulation, we pretty much always use ID selectors. I don't know. I don't recommend using anything else unless you got a really good reason. So you can sort of like navigate inside. There is a bunch of other ways. You can see these are all other ways that you could find things. We are going to use these, or at least some of them. I don't recommend using these. Well, you can use this one. I don't recommend using these, but they do exist. This or this is going to get you there 99% of the time. Sometimes when we have something, we need to sort of like navigate up and down this tree. Like we say, okay, I have the paragraph, but I actually need the container that holds that paragraph. So we need to go up to the body. So we can get the body from the paragraph by using dot parent node, which we'll kind of look at what that actually looks like, but we can kind of navigate inside of here. Now, remember how blank space nodes are really annoying? If you do dot first child on something, if I grab this body and do dot first child, I am going to get a text node, right? But if I do dot first element child, I will not get a text node. It will ignore, or sorry, I will not get, I won't get a text node at all. I won't get a blank space node. I won't get a text node. It will ignore those and only get an actual element. So if you are navigating inside of something and grabbing the first child, you want to keep in mind that maybe you should use first element child to make sure that you're getting an actual element and not a blank space node. Same with last element child. These I've almost never used, but I have used these. I've used these and I've used these. Pretty much everything else on this page I have not used. Maybe I should like gray them out because they're not that important. These guys, very occasionally. I mean, they're not like it's like you can never use them, but they are not used that often. Erin.
Yes. So would you say that basically you typically will use the first or the last element child versus using the first child or last child pretty much constantly? Or consistently?
Yes.
Consistently, sorry.
Yes, unless I don't care if I get a blank space node, which I will show you an example of a time that I would just use first child. It wouldn't break it to use first element child, but you'll often see people just use first child there. So when we get there, I will highlight a time when I don't need to use first element child, but I would say always use this and you'll pretty much never be in trouble.
Okay.
Good question. Michael.
If you were going to use a piece of code to create a new element, wouldn't you want the blank space element to tell it where to create that?
Ooh, that's a good question. No, we don't need the blank space element because we don't care. When we're just like manipulating, we don't care if it's UL and an LI inside of their UL or if it's got blank space node spacing it out. Because it's not going to change your actual code. It's going to change it in here temporarily. It's just going to change it in here, and we don't care. It's not going to matter. But that's a really good question. Yeah, I've never, ever made a blank space node or used it when I was creating things. You can just let it sort of theoretically all be on one line and not worry about it. Ruby.
So then, is there any time where these blank space nodes can be manipulated into something else, or are they just like there? I don't know. That is probably a dumb question, but
No, that's a good question. These
No
are
dumb
really good
question.
questions. We love a dumb question here. We celebrate them. We throw them little parties. No, I've never done that. I've never even thought to do that. How your brain works. typically, if we want something, we're not gonna go mess with a blank space node. We're just gonna make that thing and put it in. What is that? Now I'm like thinking, like, is there time when I just can't think of a single time that I've messed with a blank space node? But maybe there is. Now I'm gonna have to Google that. Y'all got such interesting questions. Any other questions? If they're dumb and interesting, you get brownie points. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh yeah. Oh, go.
So if you're using like CSS classes and ID tags and stuff, does it start to get complicated when you're trying to do like classes with this and stuff too? Like-
Oh, that's a very good question. Yes. I think that's one reason why we tend to use only IDs with DOM manipulation, JavaScript code, and only classes with CSS code. That's a really good point to bring up. By sort of keeping those separate, that way, because how annoying would it be if you made a change to your CSS and then that ended up breaking your JavaScript, right? If you're like, oh, I actually need that class over there, or you rename the class and now your JavaScript is broken. That's a really good point. By pretty much exclusively using IDs in JavaScript and pretty much exclusively using classes in CSS, you keep that potential wrangling mess from happening. That way, if you need to change things up on your JavaScript side, won't affect your CSS for sure. Change things up on the CSS side, won't affect the JavaScript for sure. Very good point. Any other questions? Okay, let's write some code. Let's write some code. It's here itching to write some code. So we were talking about how kind of if you were making this, you need a way to access this to find out what's in it. And you need a way to access sort of the container that has all the things in it so you can get something in there. Let's do that over in our example. In our example, this is the container, the UL. Let me take this FI out. This UL is the container, and this input is the spot that we're going to type text into. So let's put an ID on this. ID equals, we can just pick something. It should not have spaces in it, but usually they'll use like dashes instead of spaces. It's just a thing. We just need to pick something. So let's call this list input. We'll call it list input. And then we will call this list. Those are just words that I picked and I think they sound nice. So now inside of our JavaScript, this is a script tag. So I'm just going to write my JavaScript straight in there. Usually you'd have the JavaScript in another file, but just for convenience, so we can be looking at it all at once, I'm just going to type the JavaScript straight in here. So now I can use one of these tools to go grab those. I can either use get element by ID or query selector, either one. I'm going to grab this one first. So I can do this, and now I can grab something by its ID. So if I want this this input, I can do list input. I do recommend you copy it because one of the most common errors, is typing that in. You can just look for hours trying to figure out what is not working. And it's because you did list input instead of list input. It's so frustrating. So keep that in mind. That is the most common error. Even me telling you is not going to protect you from it. Me telling myself does not protect me from it. I do it all the time. And it's very annoying. So make sure those match exactly. Same capitalization, everything. So one thing I really recommend is, particularly as we get into DOM manipulation, is don't write more code. Don't write more code than you know how to find the bugs in. So write one line of code as you're starting out, and then console.log it. Console.log this line of code is going to do to make sure it's doing what you hope it's doing. So if I just throw this into console.log right here, now I can see, yes, it grabbed my input. Woohoo, it worked. If I had a typo in there, list input, kind of how I say it, input, I would get null instead. That's the sign that something went wrong. If I got null, that means it did not find the element that I was telling it to find, and I probably have a typo or something else is wrong. So that's all well and good. I can find the input. Oh, by the way, see how now it looks different? This is a perfect example. So when I logged it out before, it looked like HTML. And now that I logged it out, now it looks like an object with a bunch of properties on it. It switches between, and I don't know why it does that. I need to Google why it does that. The console will just switch between excuse me, showing it, let's see if I can get it to switch back. Showing it between as some HTML and showing it as an object. Either way it has it. Either way you're good. If it's only null, that means you don't have it. I don't know why it switches between, but it's the same thing. Like it's because it's like sometimes it shows it as the DOM model, the object model, and sometimes it shows it as the actual HTML, but regardless, you have the right thing. So you can also mouse over it. Actually, this one's still working, but often you can mouse over it and then it will show you that this is the one you have. So we have that. That's exciting. We can even take this code and play with it around over here. We now have that. See, now it's showing it as HTML. I don't know. These are the same thing. They just look different. So once we have it, we can do things with it. We can mess with it. Well, let's actually we can like get properties on it. We can get the dot value of it. We can update the dot value on it. So we could do get element by ID list input dot value, and it would tell us what text is inside of here. Like I have to say, hey, I'm text. Then I can do document get element by ID list input dot value, and it gives me that string. Hey, I'm text. I'm accessing it. I could also say, hey, that value should be equal to I'm new text. And ta-da, we have changed the text that's inside of that text box. Dot value is just the name of the property on the DOM object for changing what is in the text box. It's just the name of it. If you didn't know, you could Google it. Also, here it is. Now, we don't want to be doing this over and over again. So if we're going to be using this multiple times, we probably want to save it in a variable. So instead of like doing this a bunch of times, we could do const list input or whatever we want to call it. Then do this, and now we could do list input dot value or list input dot value equals new thing or whatever. We can just save it in a variable so that we can now use that variable multiple times. Get it once, save it in a variable like a little bookmark to it, use it multiple times however we want to. It's really common to kind of get all these little bookmarks up at the top just to make it easier to grab all these things later. So I just need to pick a name for my variable. It does not matter what name I pick. I'm going to call it text box. I don't know, I'll call it text box. Over here, I called it list input. Over here, I'm calling it text box. Doesn't matter what you call it, but I'm going to call it text box. So that doesn't make sense in my brain, but I highly recommend console.log and make sure you got what you thought you got. Oh, Ruby.
So I have two questions. One, how common is it to put your JavaScript inside of an HTML thing, like in the actual world? Like, is that a newbie type of thing, or is that like, no, don't do that?
That's a very good question. Not super common. It's not common at all if you are making a big app. It can sometimes be what you need to do if you're like making a little WordPress plugin or something, you know, when you don't really have access to putting it in another file and we kind of just need to slip it into the HTML, you can do this. I'm purely doing this for teaching purposes. For app making purposes, I would never do this, but there are occasionally times. Good question.
And then
any other? Oh yeah, go.
Like when it says document.query selector, is that made also to be able to interact with jQuery? I don't know. Or is that separate?
Ooh, that is a very good question. You are partly right. It is a knockoff of jQuery, actually. It's jQuery, yeah, it's like stolen from jQuery. So they're like query selector, like iPads that are like ePad, you know. That is 100% what is happening there. We're going to talk about jQuery next week, and you'll see query selector and jQuery's little selector thing are like basically similar, and the query selector is the knockoff. Good noticing. We will talk about that next week. So query selector works very similar to get element by ID. Perfect segue, actually. So if we want to grab this list right here, I'll make a little variable. I'll just call it list. And then I can do document.query selector. It works very similar. You can still get things by ID. The only difference, and this is important, you have to put a hashtag, like a CSS selector. It's based off of CSS. So jQuery actually got it from CSS. So they're all stealing from each other. But you have to put a hashtag if you do query selector. Selector equals hashtag get element by ID equals no hashtag. So if you put a hashtag here, you'll break it. If you don't put a hashtag here, you'll break it. You can use get element by ID or query selector. Doesn't matter which one. Query selector is newer. It's the knockoff jQuery. Get element by ID is sort of just the old faithful. It's been around forever. Does not matter which one you use. Just I would select by ID. And I would not, or I would be very careful to put the hashtag or not put the hashtag based on which one you're using. If you can't remember which, just Google it and it will tell you if you need the hashtag or not. So I'm just gonna do one of each just to demonstrate, but you can use either. Now I'm gonna console.log that out to make sure I didn't do it wrong, because that is very easy to do. And it looks good. I've got something I didn't get null. I don't know why it thinks this is Arabic, but it's not. So we did our finding. Now we have two variables that are kind of little bookmarks into our text box and our list. So we can start to kind of work off of those. We got access. So we were looking at how we can get the value from things, which is very useful because we actually want the value in the text box, right? But we want the value in the text box when they click the button. So we want to run some code when they click this button. We need an event listener. Where's event listeners? Why are they down at the bottom? Come back up here. So event listeners, they're going to be part of React. They are incredibly important. They allow you to connect, get the JavaScript to be able to listen in to things that happen in the HTML, user events. So they're called event listeners because they're listening to user events. It's like listening at the door and be like, did the user click on that button? Okay, I'm gonna run this, you know. It's creepy, I guess. We're listening to the HTML, listening for events that happen. You can connect it on the HTML side or on the JavaScript side. Typically, you connect it on the HTML side when you're working with HTML that's already in the page, and you connect it on the JavaScript side when you're working with dynamic content. We'll see an example of both of those to help that make a little bit more sense. But we are working with HTML that is already in there. We want, when you click on this button, we want to listen to the clicking on this button. That button's already in the page, so we can use the HTML way, where you just do on-click equals, and then you write the code that you want to run. Also, we use this way if we want more control over it, but we don't need more control over it. So this will work for us. So, excuse me, we will do on-click equals, and then in here we write whatever text we want to run. If we did like alert, alert, hello, then now it would run this code when we click on that button. So if we come in here, we click on the button, we get alert, hello, right? That's not what we want though. We want it to run some code down here. So let's make a function. Let's do a create list item. And now we will tell it to call this create list item function when they click the add button. Let's just test that again. Always test it. Console.log. It's working. So now if we refresh this, and click add, we can see that that shows up. So every time we click it, it runs that bit of code. Sweet. Beginnings are working. Highly recommend. Test it every little bit along the way. You write 20 lines of code and then it doesn't work. You're going to be pulling your hair out trying to figure out why it doesn't work. You'll change a bunch of things, break it 5 different ways as you try to fix it, and it's very annoying. So, I mean, we all do that, but it's nice if you test it along the way. So we're in here, we got our function. Inside of here, we now want to get whatever is in the text box. Because if we think about it, here's kind of the steps that we need to do. We need to grab the text in the text box. We need to make a new list item that has that text inside it. And we need to put that list item in the list, right? Those are kind of our steps. So let's grab the text from the text box. I'm just gonna put it in a variable. Why not? Let's do const new item text equals, and we'll do text box dot value. Now we are going to that text box. We're saying, what do you got? Taking that, we're putting it in a variable, just so we have it. I'm gonna console.log that out to make sure it is working. New item text. So, hello, we do add, we can see, boom, shows up there. Gorgeous. Now, just, okay. Oh, good question. The hashtag is only necessary if you're selecting by an ID. That is absolutely true. Yes. If you're selecting by a class, you need a dot. If you're selecting by an element, you don't put anything, just like in CSS. Great question. But I highly recommend selecting by ID. So, query selector when selecting by ID. I'll clarify that. So we have the text of our text box. Now we get to the juicy bit. We need to make a new list item that has that text inside of it. So we now get to the exciting world of creating, and comes to one of my favorite metaphors I've ever come up with. It probably won't be your favorite, but I like it. When we create something, we use document.createElement. That's basically the way to create things. We can make copies of things using clone node, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but just a little factory. It stamps out new elements. So let's do this. Let's do document.createElement, and then we, in quotation marks, this has to be in quotation marks, we give it the name of whatever we want to make. A B, an audio, an area. What are freak even are these? A body, a BR, a button. We want to make an LI, right? Because that's what goes inside of ULs. So we're going to make an LI to go inside of a little UL here to make a list of stuff. Awesome. We made it. We can put in a variable if we want. Const new LI equals this. That's console log it out to make sure we don't get a big old null or something. So coming over here, let's see. Refresh this. Now if we hit add, look at that little new ULI, so beautiful. And we can put this text inside of that LI. There's a lot of different ways to put text inside of an item. One that I like that's just nice and easy is .text content. So we can set the text content of this new LI to be new item text. Let's see, let's do broccoli. Do add, and now we get an LI with the text broccoli inside. Gorgeous. What we don't have though is that LI showing up. We made it and it is not there. Where is it? That's what we're going to talk about in just a second. Michael.
So this question probably would have gone better after what you're about to say, but when you're doing the create element and you're telling it that you want it to be a list item, is there a format where you can go on and tell it the classes you want to attribute to that item there?
No, there isn't. There is a way to do that, but not with create element. We'll look at that actually. That's a very good thing to bring up, because often, yeah, you're making a list item, but you need to like put stuff on it and connect it, but you got to do all that by hand. It's very annoying. Really good question. Let me make sure to just put this in. Make sure to put quotation marks. Another really common error people make is to do this. And that says, go find a variable called li. And we don't have a variable called li, and we'll get very confused. So make sure you give it a string. So we have made our beautiful new li here. Let's just do this. It doesn't matter, but we'll do that anyways. Made our beautiful new li, but that li is not showing up in the page. No matter how many times we add things, they don't show up in the page because they are in the great before. You ready for my weirdest metaphor ever? Have you all seen the movie Soul? It's very cute. It's a very cute movie, and I maybe cried. Will neither confirm nor deny if I cried. So in the movie Soul, there is the great before. It's like heaven. Souls are before they come down. It's really beautiful about like passion and stuff. It's a beautiful movie, okay? In the Great Before, you need an earth pass to come down. It's like there's not storks in it, but it's like the stork bringing the little baby or whatever. That kind of situation. So the Great Before, in HTML, there is a little HTML element heaven. So I like to think of it. This is totally my own idea. If you can't tell, it's my own crazy. So when we make this LI and put the text inside of it, it is in the Great Before. We put the text, like broccoli inside of it. It's in the Great Before. It's not actually in the page. We have to move it into the page if we want it to show up in the page. We got to give that thing an earth pass. If you haven't seen Soul, it is your homework to go watch Soul because it's great. So we got to get this LI. We got to move it into the page. And luckily, we are about to learn how to move things. Most common way by far that we move things is a pen child. There's also insert before. I've used it like 3 times. Most of the time I use a pen child. So, it depends, I suppose, on what you're doing, but a pen child is fantastic. It just puts it in at the end, which is often where we want it. So, we just need the parent who is going to take this beautiful new baby element in. Then we do a pen child. You can think of this like adopt child or like stork. A pen child is the stork. A pen child is the earth pass. It brings the new baby to the new parents. And then there is the child that you want. This is the soul that you want actually to come into the page. Did that metaphor make it more confusing? I'm sorry, I just love it though. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to paste this in here. We've got to get that list item into the list, right? So some parent, what is the parent that we want this new baby list item to have? Does anyone know? Anyone got a guess? I love wrong guesses. Dumb guesses. You'll get a party if you make a dumb guess.
List container.
Yes, good job. List container. But here's the problem. What do we type right here? If I type list container, that is not going to work. What do I have to type right here? Where does the JavaScript have access to the list container?
Would it be get element list container? Thought like document
Ooh,
list container, and then
we could absolutely do that. We've already done it though. We already did it right here. Very, very good point. Yes, we could absolutely do that. You could do this, so, query selector, get element by ID, but we already grabbed it right here and put it in a variable. So we should use this variable. So we type list right here. That will go to this thing right here, which is pointed to this list right here, and it will grab that list and say, hey, guess what? You're now a father. Here's your new baby. So we go to list, we do dot append child, and then we need to give it the new child that we want it to have. What do we type here to give it that new list item that we made? Any guesses?
Is it the new LI?
Yes, good job. This variable that we made that has the new list item we made inside of it. So we say list, which is a variable that's pointed to this guy. You get a new child, and here is your new child, a new LI, which is pointed to this guy, which means this guy gets his earth pass, woo, and he goes in here. Now, let's see if it works. Let's see. Okay. This is, by the way, this is not actually where the great before is. It's just where I type it for illustration purposes. So if we come over here, am I too excited about this metaphor? No. Maybe. Broccoli, and I do add. Look, oh, cool. Milk. And I do add. Ta-da! We made Slack. We just made Slack, basically. There it is, right there. Done. Boom. Very exciting. It is working. Now, I have a question. What if I do this? If I click the button one time, how many new list items will I get? If I click this, how many bullet points will I get? If my code looks like this.
2.
Good guess. That's a very, very good guess. And it is actually wrong because computers are stupid. You're too smart. Human beings would be like, all right, let's get 2. Computers don't do that because they are stupid and out to trick you. Well, I am. I tried to trick you. I mean, so new li is how many souls have we made? Just 1. There's just 1 soul that we have made. So when we ran this line of code right here, we made a little li. Then we ran this line of code right here and we put the text inside, broccoli or whatever. Then what happens? Remembering the computers are stupid. This line says, guess what? You have a new child. Here you go. Go inside here. Well, here's your child. And then this line right here grabs the same li again and says, guess what? You have a new child. And the UL is like, that's my kid. I already have that kid. You're just like, here's your new baby. And it's your 7-year-old. And you're like, it's already a kid that you have. So if we append the same thing twice, it's just going to still be there. And there will only be 1. That everyone gets it wrong every time. And I ask the question every time because, oh, sorry, I already have it in there. Because this is a very important thing to understand. So if I type something in here and click add, I only get 1 of them. I added the same thing twice. No matter how many times I do this, basically I made 1 li soul and then I gave it 6 earth passes, but it is still just 1 little li soul. So second question, what happens if I do this? If I make 2 list items, how many will I get in the page?
2.
Very good guys, and also again wrong. I'm just
1.
saying it now. No one's gonna want to say anything because I've set you all up for failure. Yeah, the answer is 1 because we made 2 souls, but we only gave 1 of them a earth pass.
Oh.
I changed the things down here maybe.
And the other one's like in purgatory still or something?
Yeah, the other one is stuck up in the grave before, which is actually the plot of the movie Soul. You should go watch it.
Soul.
But
Is it on Netflix or where is this?
Disney Plus. Disney Plus. It's a Disney movie.
I need your passcode.
Oh yeah, I'll hand out everyone. I should have a complimentary Disney Plus membership for this class. So we made 2 souls. There's 2 list items, but only 1 of them got to come down to earth. So if we want 2 list items in the page, we have to make 2 of them and move both of them into the list. Now, if we click the button once, we get 2 of them. I broke it, but we clicked the button once and we got 2. What did I even do? Oh, I didn't type anything in the text box. Well, that would do it. So we click the button once and we get 2 list items because we made 2 and we moved 2 into the page. I tricked you all on purpose because now your brains will remember. Brains hate it when you get things wrong, and so they're sorry. That was a joke. You were set up to fail. Everyone does. Michael.
So when you've run that once and you've added your list item, if you add the exact same list item, has the function cleared where we had
This is a good
the
question.
nonsense?
So this is not the exact same list item right here. New li and new li2 are not the same list item. They are 2 of the same type.
Even if you just
There are
had
2
one there, just one
if I had-
keyword element, one append child, you add the same thing to the list. If it's spelled exactly the same, it's the same HTML.
Well, this is a very good question. It's a very good question. So if I think I'm understanding you. So if I do this and then I do it again, didn't I make the same list? Isn't it the same list item?
Yeah, so it would
Is
be
that what
the
you're
same
asking?
problem. Yeah, wouldn't it be the same problem we just had with the
That is it. Yes, moving just the same one. That is a very good question. This gets to really like one of the really confusing pieces of all this. Thank you for asking that question. This comes up a lot. So to understand this, we have to go back to how functions work. If I make a function function, do something. And I make a variable inside of there. Const number equals 5 or whatever. Or let me say like let number. And then I don't know, sometimes I do number equals 6 now or something. And I run this function. I do something. Run it once. It's going to come inside of here, make a variable called number, change the variable number, and then end out the function, and it is going to completely wipe the table. Get rid of that variable completely. Now, if that variable happens to be connected to a list item, that list item will still exist, but the bookmark to it is gone, wiped away. The variable is gone. When I think we talked about this a while back, but it's a really confusing concept that if you can start to get your brain to think in this way will really help you with writing code, which is that variables inside of a function are like bowls you use when you're cooking, you know? Like if you're really cool, if you're really fancy when you cook, you like put all your ingredients in little bowls, right? And then mix them together or whatever. Variables inside of a function are like that. When you're done cooking the thing, you put all those bowls in the dishwasher and now you eat your food or whatever. And if you a week later call that function again, aka make that recipe again, you might get out the same bowls again, but these are new bowls. They're clean, right? They don't have the old ingredients in them, right? You didn't just leave them there on the counter until the next time you made that food again. Unless it's like a pot. Oh yeah, go.
So the validation that tells it not to create the second element, that comes in the JavaScript side, or does that happen in the HTML side for the append child?
When we put append child twice.
So when it's the same item coming through,
why doesn't it add 2 of them?
So is it being validated to determine if it's the same element in the JavaScript side, or is it in the HTML side?
Oh, another really good question. The answer is neither. It's not. It's just being stupid. Which is the important thing to understand about append child is it moves things. It has nothing, append child has nothing to do with creating things. It is only about moving things. It is moving something. This thing is happening to be moved from the great before to the UL. And now it is moving the same thing now from the UL back to the UL. Like we, for example, could do this. List.append child text box. We would be moving the text box from right here into our UL, sorry. We could do that. It'd be very stupid, but we could do that. You can move anything to any other spot. One spot that we tend to move things from is from the great before into the page, but you can move anything from anywhere, including you can move something and then put it back, happens to be in the same spot that it was. So why there's only one is because we put one somewhere, then we picked it up and put it back down in the same spot. So there's no validation that happens. It is stupid and does it twice. Moves it to the same spot it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good question. Very good question. Circling back in case I didn't cover it too. What happens now then with this new li variable is that it's a new fresh bowl every time. It's a new variable every time this function is run. Every time the function is run, it doesn't remember that it ran before. It's just like, what? Oh, we're making this. It's Dory from Finding Nemo. Now I reference a second Disney movie. You have to watch that one too. So it's like, what? New li? Let's do it. Boat? It just passed by here. It's like new li? Awesome. Puts a little thing in it. That new li variable points to the li in the page, goes through the function ends, throws it all away. Now you don't have a variable pointing to that li anymore. Next time the function runs, it makes a new li variable, points it to a new one that it just made, moves into the page, all the stuff, boom, throws it away. So this new li variable, each time this function runs, is a brand new variable that's pointed to what happens to be a brand new li. That makes sense? Any questions? Oh, and we got some good questions. One thing I want to throw out there too is that there's a reason why I put these above the function. I could absolutely put these in the function, but then I'm doing a bunch of extra work, right? Then every time I run this function, I'll grab a bookmark to both of those, and then use those bookmarks. And then if I run the function again, I'll grab a bookmark to them again and then use them. It makes a lot more sense to grab a bookmark to them up here. And then each time I run the function, I don't have to grab the bookmarks again. I just use the bookmarks again. It's not the worst thing in the world if you do it inside of here, but if you can, it's often nice to do it above so that you don't do extra work that you don't need to do. Erin.
Okay, I've got 2 questions. I think this might just be the resolution on my screen. Because I try to blow up your stuff you're sharing.
Oh yeah, I can
Are
actually.
those all equal signs, or some of these dashes? So like on the const text, is that a dash or is that an equal sign?
That is an equal sign.
Okay. Okay, sorry, because I'm trying to follow along and
Yeah.
I'm getting an error, so that's why I was asking. So I guess
Totally.
my second question is, so if you were to want to add more than one thing, so let's say, I mean, simple, right? You're trying to create a first and last name fields, right? Would you just
Ooh,
create
yes.
a completely second function to add on like the second, I guess, like the last name or something?
No, I would put it all in one function. That's a very good question. So like when they click this button, you want it to kind of do 2 things. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sorry, I just muted myself. I apologize.
No worries, no worries, sorry. I would put it all in the same function. I might then instead, if I'm creating a list item and doing something else, then I might rename this function to indicate that we're doing more than one thing. I might just call this like handle button click or something like that to make it clear this is the function that does all the things that need to happen when they click on the button or whatever. So I might rename the function if I'm doing more than one thing in here, but I would put it in the same function. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question. Daniel.
This is kind of going on, I guess, to Michael's question, but just to make sure I understand. So when you type something in your search box, it's going through the function and it basically forgets about it. And then when you type in something else, it just goes through the function again. And we're printing it on the page. So it's pretty much just staying on the page until you refresh it. Right?
Yes. With
Okay.
one little tweak, you said when you type in the text box, it's when you click on the button.
Right.
It's probably
Yeah.
what you meant. I just
Yeah,
want
it
to make
is.
sure that's clear to everyone.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you click on the button, it goes through this function, finishes out, forgets that it ever did that. You're going about your day, doing things, typing, untyping things. You click on the button again, it runs this again, then finishes, forgets it ever did that.
Yep. Okay.
The only way to tell that it did that is that there is now new LIs in the page.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Ruby.
So playing to Daniel's point with the search bar, so how does that mean that it, I guess, prints everything that you've kind of searched on there to stay on it? Like, why doesn't it forget? You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean this text box right here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If I type things in here and then hit add, it's still there. Is that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
Yes, because HTML does not forget. HTML is the orange fish. I can't remember his name.
Nemo.
No, the dad. What's the dad?
Marlin.
Marlin. I'm Dory. Dory, I can't remember his name. Marlin. The HTML is Marlin. The HTML never forgets unless you refresh the page, and then yes, it forgets. But what you type in here does not get wiped because that's not a variable. That's some HTML on the page.
Okay, so that explains then why search bars, they remember what you last typed.
I didn't.
right?
Yes. Oh yes. In terms of like if I start typing something in here, it'll like have these suggestions. Those are not from the HTML. This is JavaScript doing this. But the fact that I type things in here and it's running JavaScript as I type, but I'm not losing this as I type, that's because this isn't gonna get wiped because it's not a variable. But this drop down here, if you want something like that, that is typically JavaScript. Or maybe your browser. Sometimes browsers have that built in. But yeah, good question. Any other questions? Okay, we have this truly gorgeous thing working. Wow, so gorgeous. By the way, I can always pump up my text like size on this. I can always like, if that's nice. If that's nice, let me know and I'll pump it up. Let me just get just enormous. Is that better? Is that really great for you guys?
Ooh,
sorry. Okay.
That's a little too big.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
Perfect.
Is this one good?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's just the resolution on the screen that I have.
Totally. Maybe I'll make it a little, is that the same as it was before? Now I can't tell what the original one was. Okay. I did that to myself. That was my fault. We talked about creating and moving and listening and reading and updating things like the dot value, or there's other things you can do, the dot text content. Talk about fighting. Oh, by the way, this just shows like query selector is like a Swiss Army knife. It can do all the things these can do. And so this is just sort of talking about it. But to some degree, it doesn't matter because just use one of these and don't worry about anything else that you could do. Don't do it typically. You can, but. So one other thing we got to talk about, which is deleting, removing something from the page. Now, let's say, for example, that we want another button. And this button, we'll say like delete top item. So this button, we'll make a little function, delete top item. This function, we want it to go into this list and get rid of the top one. So when you click on this, we'll say delete top item, just call that function right here. So we have some ways to remove things. We can do dot remove on the element itself. If we get access to the element itself, we can call dot remove on it. We can also go to the parent and tell it to remove a particular child, and then we have to give it that actual child node that it should be removing. So for example, we could do parent.remove child, and then right here do, hey, what's your last child? And tell it to remove its last child. Flipping that, we could also use that to remove the first child. So if we want to remove the first child of the list item, what should we type right here? Or sorry, the first child of the list, my bad. The first child of this UL right here. Whatever the first child is, what code should we type? Let's copy this one, because this is very similar to what we want to do. But no, we don't want the last child, we want the first child, so let's use just the first child. But parent is not a variable that we have. Parent does not exist. If we try to run this code, it's going to be like, what is parent? That's not a variable. I know. Let's add one broccoli. It's going to be like, what the freak is parent? So we need to replace this. What parent do we want to remove a child from? If we want to remove a child from this UL right here, what should we type right there?
Is it the list again?
Yes, it's the list. List, and then we also have to replace it right here, list. So if you're ever wanting to remove a first child, a last child, you can copy this line. But something you got to keep in mind. Does anyone know what's going to go wrong? Click add, and let's do delete top item. Nothing happened. Click it again. Oh, there it went. Does anyone know what happened? What happened the first time we clicked the button? I'm just full of trick questions today. Ruby.
Is it because there was only one item on the list and there wasn't more than one, so there's not one to remove because it's at the top? I don't know. That was really confusing.
Oh yeah, that's a good guess. That is not it.
Is it removing the fake space?
Yes, good job, Erin. Isn't that you figured out the trick question? Yes, it is removing this. The first time we told it to remove the first child, and we don't care what it is. So in this case, I would want to change this to first element child. You could also technically fix this by getting rid of that space and making sure this was all in the same line. But you probably don't want to write code that's brittle like that, right? You don't want to write code like this that works just fine as long as there's no space in there. And then later someone puts a space in there. And now your code is broken. You don't want to do that, right? So it's better to just use first element child here. That way, whether you format it like this or all on the same line, it's always going to work. So now if we put one in there, let's do a, ooh, what just happened? Go away, bookmarks bar. No one told you to show up. Okay. If we do A, B, C, and then do delete top item, it gets rid of the A, and then the B, and then the C. Woo-hoo. Any questions? Okay, but that's probably not how we want our list to work, right? What we probably want is we want to be able to click on a specific list item and delete that specific list item, right? We want to be able to like check them off, not just delete the top one. So we need a way to say, hey, if you click on this list item, I want to delete it. I want it out. But those list items aren't actually in the HTML right now. They're dynamic content. They're content that will show up, but is not in the HTML right now. And when we are listening to dynamic content, we typically connect it on the JavaScript side. So we can't do this because we don't have it right there in the HTML, but we can do this. We have it in a variable, so we can call .add event listener on it. So I will copy this right here. And now we can say, hey, new LI, love what you got going on here. I would also like to add an event listener. Quotation marks. I would like to add an event listener where if you get clicked on, there's a lot of different things you can put in here. See if it, oh yeah, it gives me a, come back here. There's on blur, on cancel, change, click, close. Click's the one we care about though. If you get clicked on, I want you to run something. And then right here, we need to give it a function, some kind of function. Let's do function delete list item. Delete list item. So now, very important thing here, we are not calling the function right here. If we call the function right here, this will run immediately. While we are creating the list item, it will immediately delete it. We just want to hand it a callback function. Remember we talked about callback functions, Bob, the callback function, all that stuff. We are giving add event listener a callback function. We're saying, hey, when this list item gets clicked on, call that number, call that function for me. So now we do console log. I should be deleted. Now if we come in here, we make a list item and click on it, we get that thing console logged. We've now hooked up to any list item we make. Each list item we make, we're going to hook it up to that function. Michael.
So when we do the event listener in a function, does it only work when the function is being called, or will it work all the time?
That's a very good question. It will always work. So that's a really, really good question. So this variable is going to go poof when the function ends, but the list item is still going to be there. The variable is just like a temporary bookmark, right? If you bookmark a web page and you go to that web page and you type in some information and save it or whatever, and then you delete that bookmark, you have still gone to that web page. You know, if you bookmark your email and you go to that bookmark and you write an email and send it, and then you delete that bookmark, that email has still been sent. So we made a little bookmark to a particular list item. We added some stuff to it. We put it in the page, sent it out into the world, and then we deleted the bookmark. Well, it will get deleted when this function ends, but the changes that we have made will still be there.
But if we created, if we created an event listener for like the button outside of that ran something else, so say another element on the page, does it only run when the function runs, since it's not attached to something the function's creating?
Oh, wait, so this is really interesting. So you're saying if tell me again the scenario.
So you've got a function that has an event listener in it that is looking at a different element on the page. Does it?
Oh, so if okay. So if I did like text box dot add event listener, click, and then I told it to run something, delete top item or whatever. So now if they click in the text box, it will delete the top item. You talking about that?
Yeah, so it's not attached to something that's being
That happened to be created in here.
Yeah.
It will not go away when the function ends. The function runs in the blink of an eye. So the function will run in the blink of an eye, and that change will persist forever.
What if the function's not called? Will the event listener still trigger?
No, because you did not attach it. That's a very, this is good stuff. So we are saying, hey, if you click on the text box, delete the top item. So if I add some items in here, okay. So when I clicked that, I now just, when I click that add button, I now just ran this function. And because I ran this function, now we have said that when you click on the text box, it should delete the top item, which means if I go and click on that text box, it deletes the top item. But before I had put anything in that text box, it's not going to run this code. Or if I say, if I give a little arrow function right here and say like, alert out, I was clicked on. So I made a little baby arrow function right here. Like remember when we made Bob all tiny? It's a little callback function right here that just alerts out I was clicked on. So what you can see here is I'm clicking on the text box, nothing is happening. I click the add button. Now when I click on the text box, it alerts out, because not until this line of code runs will that event listener be attached. This line of code attaches the event listener and says, from this moment forward, let me know. And until this line of code actually runs, it cannot let you know. It doesn't know to let you know until that runs. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yeah, that got it.
That was a really good question. Really getting into sort of the craziness of all this and what can make this so hard. So you're like, oh wait, but that doesn't run. And again, we got 3 weeks of looking at this. The goal is just seep your brain in there. Slowly absorb it, slowly get more comfortable with it, with the recognition that this is not the most important content of this course. React is, but this will help us build towards React. So, this is all well and good, but we wanted to actually delete the list item. Now we have a problem right here, because we want this code to delete a particular list item. We don't want to just delete the top one. We want to delete a particular one. But which one? We have to go get access to the one we want to delete. And which one is that? We don't know. So there is some options. Rather than just calling this function right here, we can do a little trick, which is we can say, hey, well, rather than just giving over this function, we can make a little dummy function. This is just a little baby function. And what this function does is call delete list item with a parameter, and we could give it the li we're talking about right now. Now this could take a parameter, li to delete, and we could use it right here. These brain explode. So we made a little baby function. This is a function that takes nothing as an input, and all it does is call delete list item with new li, this thing right here, as the parameter. That way, when this gets called, well, I li to delete. Never mind, we're good. When this gets called, li to delete gets set to whatever list item we were making at the time. Now this gets a little tricky, but whatever list item we were making at the time is in here, and then it will remove that particular one. Let's see if it works before I go out saying what a great idea this is, because let's make sure it works. So if we do A and do B and do C and then do and then click on one of these, if I click on B, it deletes B. I click on A, it deletes A. Click on C, it deletes C. So it is deleting the particular one it's deleting the particular one that was in the new li variable when this little function was made. This gets into a little bit of a fancy thing called closures that you might have heard about. Not something you need to 100% understand, but just something, if you're like, what? That is what is happening there. Erin.
So couldn't you just basically go in and put the letter or the number that you wanted to delete and just go ahead and click the delete button as well? Is there something you could write to be able to utilize that?
Ooh, so you're saying
because you already delete the option. Do you have something where you can write, like if you you could just write the code where if you put something in that box, it'll delete it?
Oh, that's interesting. So if you could do like that's very, I've never thought of that before. So you can type like A in here and click delete, and then it goes finds the list item that has A inside of it and deletes that list item.
Yeah,
that is trickier. That is definitely trickier,
because I feel like that's what a lot of like LMS systems and different things utilize. But when you're having
yes,
you have to go search for the information. to be able to say you're
Uh-huh.
gonna do it. So okay.
That gets a lot trickier because now you have to look through this whole list and check inside each LI and see if the text inside each LI matches the text in the text box. So you
Okay,
gotta go
let's not
check,
go over
check, check,
that.
check.
Let's
We're not
let's
gonna go
do
over
any examples on that, okay?
We're not going to. But that is what you would have to do if you did it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. It's really good to like think like, how would you do this? And like just stretch your brain against how things might happen. Any other questions? Ethan.
So we're like creating these lists, adding items, deleting items, and then every time you refresh, it all gets deleted because it's just in the HTML. So
Mhm.
say you get to wanting to do something with this stuff, like on the JavaScript side, would you be like adding each list item to like an array, and then you could like run functions on the arrays and stuff?
Maybe absolutely. So we could say a const list array or something, whatever we want to call it. And that could be a little array. And then every time we add a new thing to the HTML, we also add it to our JavaScript data. So we could do list array dot push new item text. And now as we add items in here, A, B, or whatever, what's it, list array will also have those items in it. But that actually won't solve your problem. When you refresh it, it will still be gone. Because when you refresh the page, the HTML and the JavaScript gets completely wiped and put back in again. The only way to make it persist when you refresh the page is to connect your front end to a back end, which we will learn about a little bit next week. But then really for realsies in like week 15. It gets a little complex connecting to a backend, but very cool. So we will look at that. But until you connect it to a backend, which is complicated, nothing will persist. When you refresh the page, it'll be gone. If there's sometimes little ways you can save things, but generally speaking, it's gone unless you have a backend. Backends are complex because by a backend, it means a computer somewhere that's always running that stores your data. You need a server, you need a backend. So it gets a little complex making that happen, but you absolutely can. And we'll talk about that in later weeks. Thanks for bringing that up. Michael.
Sorry, I'm full of questions tonight.
I love it.
The delete list item thing, the nifty little thing we did there. If you move that element to another part of the page, does that stick with it then?
Ooh, another very good, Michael. I love it. Yes, because it is connected to that item directly, not to where that item is.
Could you remove it?
The only thing, could you remove it if you wanted to? Yes, dude, you are bringing up everything. There is a little thing called remove event listener that can remove that event listener. Maybe you could make we could do wait function. This could get a little funky, but we could, if we wanted to later, we could remove the event listener. When you're removing an event listener, you just have to put in the exact same things you did when you added it, which gets a little complicated in this exact scenario, but it tends to look something like this. In this exact scenario, it's a little funky. You could also do this, and that would remove everything off of it. So now we put it on, then we immediately ripped it off, which you probably wouldn't do, but it is something that you could do. For example, what if we wanted to make it so that you click the delete top item button and it works only one time, but does not work again after that? You can only delete the top item once and it does not work anymore. One, we could not use this because this one is not dynamic like that. But instead of connecting to the button like this, we could connect to the button like this. We could give an ID to this, delete top item button. And then we could say, top item button equals document.get element by ID. Copy this exactly so I don't put it in wrong. And then we could say, hey, delete top item button. Add an event listener so that when you click, they click on you. it calls the delete top item function. So we'll do delete top item. So now what we could do is once that delete top item function is run, we could say, oh, by the way, now remove it. So we can go remove event listener. This is actually a good demo of what happens when you do remove event listener. So we said, hey, go get the button, this one, add an event listener to it. When you click it, delete the top item. Then they click the button. When they click the button, it removes the top item and it removes the event listener from the button, which means, see, I can click it once, but now if I try to click it again, that event listener has been removed and it no longer is listening. Any questions? We don't need to do removing event listeners all the time, but there are times. Like for example, maybe they can click the button and then once they click it once, you don't want them to be able to click it again. You could do that. Or like in like a game, like game over, they can't click anymore. You can remove the event listeners, things like that can come up. So what time is it? 27. Wow. So we talked to one thing we haven't talked is removing all the children of a parent, completely wiping something. For example, we might want something that does remove or delete all list items. So this function will delete all the list items. We'll make a little button for it. Button on click, oops, on click equals delete all list items. Delete all. So now when they click on this button, it'll run this function. And in this function, if you want to wipe something, just copy one of these. Just copy paste it in and change it until it works for you. So we can copy paste that in here. And now instead of parent, what we want to wipe is list. So we'll do list.firstChild, list.removeChild, list.firstChild. In this instance, I do not care that it's putting first child because I don't care if it removes the blank space nodes too. That's fine. I just want to remove everything. What this will do is it will keep looping as long as the list has a first child. If the list has a first child, meaning this is not null, it'll go inside the loop and remove the first child. Goes back up and says, hey, list, now who's your first child? And then it says, disown that child. Kick him out of the house. Comes back up and says, okay, now who's your first child? Kick out that child. It just destroys a family. It's real dark. But it's just going to keep doing that until it comes up and says, who's your first child? Unless it's like, well, I don't have any children anymore. It's like, all right, okay, we can stop then. That is how this loop works. So it's real dark. So if we add a bunch of things, A, B, C, if we do delete all, boom, they're all wiped. Now we could add new things again. We'll wipe them all. It will remove everything, which sometimes we want to do. For example, when we switch between pages in here, if I go to another channel, it will wipe all the stuff out of here. Oh, geez. And put all new stuff in there. It's wiping everything in there. So a couple things. One, this is a little like cheat sheet. There's a lot of little cheat sheets out there. This is one. You can go find other good ones as well, I'm sure. Just like to help you remember like what the different things are. It's not exhaustive, but it has a lot of them in here. Like, oh, here's, remember you can use text content. Oh, by the way, if you want to do that, you can do that. Here's some of the events. There's lots of different events, but here's some of them. Just like a kind of little reminder page. If you want it, you can also use these slides as a reminder. There's a visualizer. This is a chapter that goes deeper into the DOM. I kind of like some of the pictures that it has. Like this one's kind of fun. It's a little crazy, but it's kind of interesting stuff if you're interested. So those are the links that I have at the end there. Let me think. Yeah. What time is it? 31? Yeah. So that is a quick little example here of making a little to-do app. Next week, we're going to just continue looking at this stuff. We're just going to continue with it tomorrow. Next week, we're going to learn jQuery, which is just an old library. It doesn't tend to be used much anymore, at least not new projects, but that does the same stuff that this does. So the code is going to be very similar. Does the exact same things, same tools we're talking about, same thing with DOM nodes, all that stuff. It's just a little bit different way of doing it that you sometimes see out there. So more of that same stuff of trying to think in this way is what we're doing next week. The week after that, you're doing your project. It's a big project that you make to practice with this stuff. So that is the end of class, but I'm very happy to stick around, answer any questions. If anything you're working on, all that good stuff, bring them at me. Bring me them questions. And also thank you for coming. Hope you have a great week. Michael, what's your question?
Can you show us a little bit of how to apply classes and that type of stuff to the
Absolutely. Yes. So if we're like that list item, super ugly, right? This is real ugly. Doesn't look very nice. I want it to be styled with Bootstrap, say. Where is it? Bootstrap. There's like that list group. Where is it? List group. I love these classes. So all you have to do is put the class list group on the UL and list group item on each of the LIs, right? So I already have the UL, so I can just put this on the UL. I also need Bootstrap. Do I have Bootstrap? I do. Oh, nice. We'll put that class on there. See, now we have this for our JavaScript and this for our CSS. It's very nice. I'm going to make sure I'm pulling in Bootstrap up here. I think I have it over here. Let me just grab that. Let me pull in Bootstrap. Yeah. I need my Bootstrap up here. I think it matters, but so pulling in my Bootstrap CSS file, put my list group class on my UL, but I also need to put that list group item class on each of the LIs that get made. You know, you can see Bootstrap is now changing up the thing. So see, if I come and look in here with all my LIs, I want each of these to have the class on them. So I need to add a class to my list item. JavaScript, DOM manipulation, add class. How to add a class to a given element. Let's see. Look at W3 schools. Oh no, that's how do you add JavaScript with DOM manipulation. HTML DOM element class list property. So we can do, well, let's like this, but we can add classes to a class list. I'm trying to find a good one. Maybe tutorials point. A good example of this. So, okay, so we grab the element, do dot class list, dot add, and then give the class name. So I'm going to grab this. Why was that so hard to find? So right here, we're making my new LI. Instead of saying LM, I will say new LI, dot class list, dot add, and the class I want to add is list group item. So I will take this right here to add list group item. And now I come over here, when I add my list groups items, they are styled with Bootstrap. Answer your question?
Yeah, now what about images when you're wanting to add the source for the image and that kind of thing, or links with the
Yes, great question. So what if each of these, I have some images. These are weird images, but we're just going to use them. So what if I want to put an image inside of each of these list items and set it up? This is a really good question. So we need to make an image. How do we make something? We need to use document.createElement and tell it to make an image. So we'll do const image equals, let's call it image, why not? Create element, and the tag name that we want to make is img. So now we are making an image, so pretty. We've got to move it. We've got to give it a parent though. So we created it, we also need to move it. The parent we want it to have is this list item. That's what I want to do at least. So we can do new li dot append child. Here, little new li. This li is going to be born a parent. It's crazy. This li hasn't even been born yet, and it's already getting a baby. It's real. I don't know. It seems toxic. So new li dot append child image. So in the great before, we're gonna make that li. Put some text in it. Then we're gonna make an image, and then we're gonna put that image inside the li, append child, and then we're going to take this and append it inside of here. It's real crazy. So it's like, here's your child. Your child is a parent. You are now a grandparent. You become a parent and a grandparent at the same time. It's a little crazy. We'll be continuing to sort of build on that to help that make sense. But now if we want to, we can do .src. That is the DOM node property for setting the source. Because I think you can just do src. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then we can set it equal to something. Just like you would do image src up here, we can just do image src right here, and we can just do what is it? Slash images slash what's one of my images? They're enormous. Chair.jpg. Chair.jpg. It's gonna be truly large, but so now it added the list item, and inside that list item is an image that has the source set to /images/chair.jpg. If you're like, that's way too big, another thing that we can do in here, there's a million different things you can do with DOM manipulation. Another thing you can do is you can change the CSS on it. So we could say, hey, image, you are too big. Was it .style? You do image.style .width. We can change any CSS we want here. Border, padding, whatever we want to change right here. I'll do style.width, and I will set it equal to 50 pixels. Now, when we add a list item, we get a much smaller image. Each time we add it, we're getting an image of it. You could make this source dynamic in some way if you wanted to compute this thing in some way. But that's how we can set the source on an image dynamically, or on a dynamically created image. Questions? And how we can change style directly without just, we can put a class on something, but we can also change the style directly if we want to. This changes CSS directly. This adds a class that changes the CSS, or that changes the style, I guess. Changes style directly. Actually adds inline styling, which is the only time inline styling is okay. You can actually see it over here. Wait, let me see. You can see this list item. Here's the image. The image has style with 50 pixels, which is the only time inline styling is fine when you do it with JavaScript. Any other questions? One thing just for fun, I'll say right now is why not? One annoying thing is that when you add something, it doesn't wipe this, which is potentially not what you want. You can wipe that. All you would have to do is, after you've done with everything, go to that text box and tell it that its value should be an empty string. And now we're saying, okay, do all your stuff, and at the very end, set the text box to an empty string. That way we can add stuff and not have to like clear it out each time, which was annoying.
Can you double click on or click on the image and it delete the list item there?
Yes, because that image is inside of the LI. So clicking on the image is also clicking on the LI.
Nice. You just made my week significantly easier.
Hey, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah, when you put an event listener on something, everything inside of that will also trigger the event listener, generally speaking. Yeah, you could also, if you didn't want it to delete it when you just click anywhere, you could instead put a specific button on the LI and only add this event listener to the button instead of to the whole LI. And then it would only delete the list item if you click on that button, not if you click anywhere else inside the list item. That is another option. It'd be similar to making this image. You could make a button. Make a delete button. Const button equals document dot create element button. We could do button dot text content equals delete. We could do button dot class list dot add btn. We could do button dot class list dot add btn dash danger, the bootstrap classes, and then we could say, hey, button. And we could take this out of this event listener right here and say, don't do it there. I'll comment this line out actually. Instead of doing it here, we could do it just on the button. And now we got to make sure we add the button, but new li dot append child button. Now, this list item is going to be the parent of 2 when it gets added into the page. It's going to have a button and an image inside of it. So now, as we add list items, there's a delete button in there. And if we click anywhere on the list item, it doesn't delete it. Only when we click on the delete button. That's an option as well. So you could either put it on the whole thing. Let's pull this out right here. Either put it on the whole list item, or make a delete button and just listen to clicks on that button. Either one we could do, depending on what sort of a behavior we wanted. Any other questions?
I've got another fun one if nobody else has one.
Go.
So with learning the DOM manipulation here, is there a way for me to pull information from another website using this?
Ooh, that is
Without
a
an
cool
API.
idea. No, except you can run it anywhere you want. So I think, you know, when there's like a paywall and it like covers everything up and you can't read the things. It used to be, I think they got wise to it, but it used to be that all you had to do is like go inspect that thing and then come in here and find what it is and then run some DOM manipulation that deletes it. You could just like go into the console and tell it to delete something. So here's something with an ID. This H2, where is that thing? Okay, so see this H2 right here has the ID of horizontal on it. If I come in here and do document.get element by ID, hashtag horizontal, and then I do like .remove. Oh, it's mad. What did I do? Oh, no, I did put the hashtag in. Look, I made the problem. You can't put the hashtag in. Okay, it's gone. I just removed it from the page. Now you did not change their actual HTML. So if I refresh the page, it comes back. But you can go in there and mess with people's pages. It's not messing with it for anyone else. No one else will see this change. If you go here, you're not going to see the change. It's only messing with it right here in my browser. So you used to be able to use that to get around paywalls. Not that I would ever do that because journalists should be paid, but you just like right click on the paywall, do inspect, and then like find it and then delete it from the page with DOM manipulation, and boom, it was gone. With the text behind
Be
it.
a fun way to mess with some family members.
Yeah, just you have to open it up on their browser for them, and then or open it up before they come, go into the console, run your DOM manipulation, and then have them come over and be like, what is wrong with this page? Something so weird.
You could, it reminds me of for like passwords and stuff, you could change type password equals to type text to remember your password.
Yes, that is true too. Yes, like if you're typing in a text box that's all passwordy. Wait, I'm trying to see if there's one like in here somewhere I could play with another. But yes, you can go find it with DOM manipulation. You can change the type. If you have like a text box right here, if I do, I type things in here. If I do text box, I have a variable called text box, right? If I do text box dot, I need just to type equals password. Now it's password. So I did type equals, was it text? Now it's back to text. So you can do that. DOM manipulation, again, it does not make an actual change to the source code. When you refresh the page, it's gone. It's not visible to other people who are on that website, but it does change the website right there. The HTML that you right there are looking at. So you can have some fun, but only right there in the page that you have. If you like send this link to someone, you know, if I make a change in here and then send this link to someone, when they open it, my change won't be there. But if you have someone come look at your browser right then, your change will be there. You could hook up new event listers. You can do whatever you want. That's why a lot of times there used to be scammers that would try to get you to put things in here and hit enter and like run them. So sometimes companies would put over here and say like, don't run stuff in here unless you know what you're doing, because scammers would try to get you to run stuff in here. Any other questions?
I
Okay.
think so.
Great class, y'all. Hopefully that helps with things. Am I still streaming? Yeah. I'll share this code and all so you can use it as a reference for different things. A lot of stuff, we do a lot of sort of the same stuff over again, like wipe something or, make something and append it. So you can do a lot of copy pasting, tweaking it to do what you want. We do that a lot. Also, a lot of Googling. If you're like, how would I change the width of that image using JavaScript? I happen to know this because I've done it a lot of times, but just you Google it. Google JavaScript, Google like DOM manipulation, change image width, or JavaScript, change image width, JavaScript, change text or change input type or whatever. Googling that stuff, you'll find the answers and play around. Doing that, Googling, finding stuff that you can do, playing around is an excellent way to get comfortable with this stuff. Make a big old mess and then get out. Ruby.
Make custom event listeners. I don't know why it popped into my head.
Oh,
But I was like, can you do that?
For,
Like if it went boing, it'll do something? I don't know. I don't know.
you have amazing ideas. I think that you can, but
Oh,
there is an
man.
enormous number. You can't make custom event types because they have basically made one for every type of thing that a human being could do with a web page. Let me see if I can find event types. Where is it? Here we go. This is a very long list of all the possible events a user could do to anything. If the user scrolls the mouse wheel, if the user uses a finger, if the user selects some text, like doing this, you can make an event happen when they select text inside of a paragraph or something. If the user resets a form, if the user resizes the page, all kinds of things. All kinds of things for exactly when the user is clicking. If they click and hold it down, if they double click, all kinds of events. Basically, if they cut or copy something, you right click and do copy or whatever, or do this and do copy. They can listen to that and do something when you do that. Pretty much every possible thing that a user could do with any part of a page, they've already made an event type for. So I don't think you can make any more, but that would be cool. But you could, like, for example, this is a good example, actually. What if you want, when the user clicks enter in here, for it to add the list item? That way I don't have to keep like clicking add over here. So when the user clicks enter in here, I want it to add the list item. I don't have to make a custom event type for that because there's already an event that I can customize my event listener for, my function for, to make that happen. There is one called key press. A key is pressed on the keyboard. So what I can do is I can say, hey, input on key press equals, and I'll make a little function. Let's do function key press, or let's do press. Whatever we want to call it. Wah! What did I do? Go away, stop it. Now I made a little function. I'll hook this up. So when they press any key in here, it'll run this function on key press. And now, it's actually a good little side thing to talk about, actually. Now this will run. Now, anytime they press a key in here, it will register that. You could do that on the body, and then, like if you ever played like a video game in the browser and you can push keys and it does things, you put this event listener on like the body, I think, it will register any keys are pressed. You can even do things like pay attention to if they're holding down shift when they hit the key, or holding down control when they hit the key. To get that sort of fancier things, you need to use a special event object here. Well, I think you usually just do it like this in this exact scenario. And that's special. It's a little thing that's provided to you by the browser. Provided by the browser. You didn't make that event variable. The browser will give it to you when you are running a function because of an event. And it is a little event object that has a bunch of information about what just happened, including the key that you just pressed and a little key code for that key. So if I hit enter, you can see right here that when I hit enter, the key code is, where is it? Key code is 13. So inside of here, floating anyone's brain, I can do if event.keycode equals 13, then I know that they typed in an enter. 13 means enter. And I could do, I could call that create list item function. Create list. Now, refresh over here. I can hit enter. And every time I hit enter, it adds the item to my page.
So cool. You mean to tell me that like if somebody like if you do this and somebody's typing in a password, you could literally know what their password is because you would know what key they typed.
Yes. Yes. If you got into someone's browser and like said, hey, console.log every key, you could, if you pulled up the page that lets them log in and then went into the console, wrote some code that said, hey, anytime they type in this particular input, console.log it or something, and then close the console and then have them type in their password, then you could go and not send it yet because that would refresh the page. You could go into the console and see what they typed. As long as the page doesn't get refreshed, that'll wipe everything. So you would have to have access to their browser and you would have to get them out of the way to type in their console and then come back. And then out of the way again to check in the console. But yes, you could. You'd have to be very sneaky. Maybe with your less tech savvy parents.
I mean, I could do it with my brother. I'm gonna try it.
Yes. Do it.
How
Get
do you
get
get
their
him to
Disney
not
Plus
hit enter?
password. What'd you say?
How are you gonna get him to not hit enter?
That's true. You've got to get them to not submit it. Because once they submit it, it's gonna refresh the page and then it's gonna be gone. Because you know, if I'm console logging these out, if I do console.log event.key, I think it was key. Let's try that. Now it's logging each thing as I type it. You know, each thing as I type, it's logging. But if they like hit submit, which is going to refresh the page, it's all gone. You gotta be.
Internet connection when you hit submit for it to go through.
Oh, I don't know. We got to try this. This is very important. We must figure out how to bring her. I don't wait. Even if you don't have an internet connection, I think it'll just
Okay.
like try and then crash. And I think the console would get wiped, but I'm not sure. I don't know. There's gotta be some way. If we can't do evil things with this, then why are we learning?
This is all white hat, not black hat.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, I guess it is pretty hard to you gotta have a lot of access to someone to get to trick them with this, but if you did, brothers are a great target. I would
Yes.
say. Oh man, that's amazing. You're giving me ideas. Oh, my class, what was the site that was mentioned last week with all the cool pages? The Daniel site with all the good ideas.
Oh, hold on, I've got it.
I think I posted it. Yeah, webdesign-inspiration.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I posted it right up here. It's our official weekly cool link from Daniel.
Yeah.
And if you ever have more cool links, we want them. But
Not a cool link, but you were talking about the hacking stuff. Kit Boga is awesome. He
really?
Yeah, if you've never looked him up, he messes with the scammers and stuff. He's a developer. He's a developer, so he made his own bank that submits data, but he obviously controls all of it, so he really messes with them bad. It's hilarious.
That is amazing. That is truly that's beyond white hat hacking. That is like
He made his own
Golden
Best
Halo.
Buy page so he could buy his own Best Buy gift cards and then make it seem like he redeemed them to make them mad. It's amazing.
oh my gosh. So he would send them Best Buy gift cards
Yeah.
and scam them into
Mhm.
thinking they had Best Buy gift cards, but that then didn't work.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, thank you. I'm going to share a link. That is a cool link. I'm sharing a link to Kit Boga. As you learn, as you learn dom manipulation, and it's frustrating, you can let some of that frustration go by watching Kid Boga just be horrible to people that deserve it.
Absolutely hilarious.
That's your de-stressor, if that helps you from the craziness of these next few weeks. Thank you so much, Daniel. Can't believe you keep having cool links. Amazing.
I'm about out of them.
That makes sense.
I'm at the bottom of the barrel.
I love it. Kid Boga. We had one this week. Any other questions? Anything else I can help with? Hey.
Oh, for
Ooh.
what was it? So this week we had 2 sets of videos. Basically, they show us how to do the same thing. One's a simpler version, one's a more complex version. Could we use that to build onto like something if we want to
Yeah,
make it
probably.
into, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
I
trying to
think
think.
I think of the team, like the team project. What if I want to make an actual game? Or what if I want to actually have like people like, you know, attached to it? Of course, I have a lot of stuff to learn, but I don't know.
Yeah, no. Playing around with some code that's already there that can kind of give you an initial scaffold can be a good way to like first dip your toes in and try out stuff. Yeah. You might run into like limitations of like it's really designed to work in this way and you need it to work in that way. So like it might be annoying sometimes when you're working from someone else's code base. But that can be a good way to just, yeah, kind of get your feet wet and play around with stuff. I think it's definitely worth trying.
I'll see
Dude.
if I can do it. So we'll see.
That is how I started with programming. I used HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and DOM manipulation, and I made the stupidest games. So dumb, so cool. Such cool, dumb games. I wonder if I have maybe I have a cool link. Well, not that cool of a link, but let's see. Wait, do I still have up let's see. Oh, maybe I do. Maybe I do. 1 second. The very first, or it wasn't the very first, it was the game I made and showed it to an interviewer and got it my first job with it. It was DOM manipulation. It actually uses jQuery, which was very cool back then. Yes, it's still live. Oh no, it's not live. I thought it was live. Wait. Site is live. Why wouldn't you work? Dang it. This is the very old code for it, but for some reason, look at this. What is this garbage? Why does that not work? Benefit on GitHub.io.
Asteroids? Oh my god, it's so retro. That's super cool.
Why is it not published? It's being all weird and doesn't want to publish. Oh, it's on deploy from. I don't know. It wouldn't go. It's a little stupid old asteroids game. I have to like pull it down sometime and show it to you. But it's got little dumb, little crappy. Don't use this as like a good code, but oh. Anyway, little crappy old JavaScript code. No, I'm embarrassed. Don't look. Right away. Too embarrassed. Don't look. But it is very old code, over a decade old, and not code I'm proud of. But I have it up there as some memorial. I'll have to pull it down and run it so you guys can see the stupid game that I made. It got me a job, okay?
It's gotta be awesome.
It's a little asteroids game. I'll have to pull it down sometime.
That's something to be proud of, though, right? Like it got you a job. Look how far you've come.
Truth. Oh, Michael, what's this? What's this? Oh, Hangman, did you make this?
I made this. We had a couple snow days, and I went through and made it using nothing but JavaScript alerts and the logic behind it. You can pick how many tries you want to get.
Oh my gosh, wait, I'm pulling it down right now. I need this. Oh my gosh, Hangman.
It's amazing. He's just like making Hangman in his free time.
Spare time.
It's like right now. So
It took 3 days to put that together.
Mm.
Wait, am I sharing my screen? Wait, come back here, come back here. I pulled it down. Wait, let me take it live. See this thing. Oh, so you can like put in a phrase. JavaScript. Oh, and then you can see how many guesses they get. 3. It's a really hard game. Oh, and then you have someone come, and then they come and they guess a letter. So if they guess like A. Ah! I only have 3 guesses. I cannot win this. Ah, that is so cool. Oh, I have 3. Oh, 3 like misses. That makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, so I can win.
It makes you only put in 1 letter too. If you put in 2 letters, it'll pop up a thing to try again.
Like a good letter. Oh, and if I put in like a bad one, it shows me which ones I did wrong. Oh my gosh. All right, the P is. That is so cool. So if I do a wrong one, I already did C. What's it that? Z. Ah! Oh my gosh, the correct word is JavaScript. That is so cool. I love it.
So now that we're doing all the DOM manipulation, I'm trying to work
Yes.
this into a website.
Yeah, into a website, dude. That's a meaty problem, and I'm very excited to see what fun journey you go on.
Throw it on Git
Like,
pages.
yes, throw it on Git pages and share with all of us. I don't know how my other one got broken, but I need to like pull it down or something. I need to fix it. My Git pages isn't working anymore, but throw it up there and share it with us because we all need to see it. I'm gonna fix this thing. Thank you for sharing that. And you have to keep us updated on how the process goes of trying to update that thing. I love it.
Spent roughly an hour on it night before last and got so frustrated that I just walked off. I deleted the code and just walked off.
That I relate. I've definitely been there many times. What's that? Have I posted one of my favorite quotes? It's like program program an app for a man and you frustrate him for a day. Teach a man to program an app and you frustrate him for a lifetime.
That's true.
It's true. Like you think that using apps are frustrating? Try making it. It's even more frustrating. Oh,
I wanted to throw
man.
my computer across the room when I had to do the tic-tac-toe game. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, is that this week or next week?
No, it's next week. He's like wanting to throw his computer and he's ahead.
Stop.
It's about to start that tomorrow too. Now I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, go for it. Get in there. Get mentor help. Message me. Oh, actually, I just remembered a thing. I am not teaching this Saturday. I could do a help session and help y'all with the tic-tac-toe, help y'all with whatever. Would y'all like that? I forgot to talk about that in class. I will post it out. It'd probably be around middle-ish of the day on Saturday. I don't know if that's good for people.
Yes.
I do have some wiggle room. So I'll post out. I'm gonna post that out. I'll post out about the Saturday thing and we'll see if we need to wiggle a little bit time-wise. But you could just show up whenever, get help on things. I can walk through coding different things, just or just hang out. Just hang out and look at cool links. We'll just look at the cool things y'all are making. I like that too. But yeah. So that'll be available on Saturday. Just for funsies. Oh wait, you guys ready? I just pulled up my thing. Very last thing. I downloaded it. Here's my HTML. You see everything has an ID on it, so I could grab it with document.element by ID. Everything's got an ID on it. Why are my scripts in the head? I don't know. That seems wrong. What? Take it live. Let's see. Is it broken? Who knows? Oh, look at it.
Look at how
Listen
cute
to.
that is.
I did not make the pictures. I found them somewhere. It listens to key
Ah,
So when you press arrow keys, it listens to those key presses and it moves something. It changes the style on this to use CSS to move it back and forth. And you can shoot things, you can collect batteries and things.
and
You can
hearts.
collect hearts if you're
Like, I want
dying.
to make that cool. And what happens if well, nothing happens, I guess. Oh man.
If you run into it, you die.
How long did that take?
Oh my gosh, so long. So long. I made it for my brother for Christmas and he was like, sure. And I was like, fuck. It took a long friggin' time. I think I made it over the Christmas break. Like one time when I was in school, I made it over Christmas break, like in college, I think. And I didn't have anything to do all Christmas break, so I just counted this all day for like 2 weeks. I made this dumb thing. Woo! So fun. I love making dumb games. Making dumb games is a great way to learn programming. This is my experience. The games don't have to be cool. Like all the icons and stuff I got like from something that had like some free icons. Didn't make the icons. That got me my first job. But when I was showing it to them, I panicked the night before and I was like, this only works in Firefox. What if they open it in Internet Explorer? So I panicked the night before, tried to fix all the code because it used to be that code wouldn't work between browsers. Tried to fix it all so it would work in Internet Explorer. And in the process of doing that, I broke it in Firefox. And then during the interview, I opened it in Firefox and then it didn't work. So I showed it to them broken. And I still got the job. I don't know. Maybe they were handing out jobs to anybody, honestly. I don't know if that's a hopeful story or what, but there it is. It's a story. On that note, and there's nothing else. What did you say, Heather?
I think that thing's cool.
Thank you. Go out, Heather. Make something cool. AKA make something dumb. You don't have to. That was not by any stretch the first thing that I had made with JavaScript. That was like the 10th thing that I had made with JavaScript. The first thing that you make with DOM manipulation is going to be horrendous. It's going to be the worst thing you ever made. I mean, you're going to be excited. It is cool, but also it's going to be the worst thing you ever made because you're just going to get better. So you got to make the first thing. It'll be the worst thing you ever made. Then you'll make the second thing, which will be the worst thing you ever made. And now that will be the second worst thing you've ever made. It just goes like that. You make better and better.
The first thing will be the best thing that I ever made because it'll be the first thing that I made, and then
there you go. Then eventually, that is true. The first thing you made will be the coolest, best thing you have ever made in your life, and then eventually it'll be the worst thing.
Ruby, where the heck are you? You got like all those little stuffed animals back there. You're like down on your little couch. You got like a star chair. What is happening?
So cute.
Office, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff.
It's adorable.
She's gonna have a baby, and so I'm not where I'm normally at. So I'm with her. I'll be with her this month. So that's why I wasn't in class last week because I just got off a plane and I was like dead. So I'm sorry about that, but
you miss you.
I'm so mad. I'll never forgive you.
Class, and I was I miss class. It's so sad.
Oh, we missed you. We did miss
I did notice. I was like, "Where's Ruby?" And all of us are her like amazing questions.
We did notice. Yeah, I noticed too.
Her kid, well, she has a 5-year-old, and her 5-year-old likes to come up here. So she has a little desk right there, and she watches me kind of be in class. See
you, Michael.
But
that is so cute. I love that you're going out to this baby. You're so sweet. Angel.
I'm excited. It's gonna be a boy. So I went shopping and I was like, this is bad. I'm not about to be a parent.
Dude,
I spent all my money on this kid.
You're doing like all the things all at once. I got like a job and then I had to quit it because I was like, this job isn't actually that cool. And like, I'm, I'm supposed to be like graduating and stuff. This job's not that cool. And even if it were that cool, it's not like cool enough to not like do well in my program and stuff. But like Ruby, doing it all.
Oh man, I work on Saturday too, but I'll try to be there for a little bit. It's tough. I work.
Yeah, that makes no worries. If there's one person there, we'll chill and we'll have a good little time. It's available. Just me and if it's just me and Heather for an hour, we'll have fun.
It's gonna be super fun. Daniel.
But if I don't tell anyone but Heather that it's happening.
What time is it?
We haven't decided
Gotta
yet.
we haven't decided on time. Is there a time? You all are here right now. Is there a time that would be best for y'all?
I mean, I'm central, so
yes, you all are central and I'm Pacific, but I've got a lot of flexibility because normally I teach on Saturdays and I don't this week, so it's open. I took off this week because I'm going on vacation next weekend.
nice.
Yeah. But so I'm open like all day Saturday. I'm doing nothing but like playing video games and watching Netflix. I'm gonna watch Soul. Just kidding. So if there's a time that people want to do, I can probably do that time.
I'm gonna need you to speak to the powers that be so I can complete my homework assignment and watch Soul.
Oh, yes. I'm gonna call up Disney Plus and just be like, look.
I actually hadn't, but I didn't watch enough on there. But they're merging with HBO Max this summer, so that's gonna be
for serious?
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah. I don't know if HBO bought them. I'm imagining Disney probably bought HBO Max. I'm guessing. But
I had no idea. That's fascinating.
it's delayed House of Dragons, so I'm kind of upset.
Dude, yeah, sometimes when things merge, it's not great.
Yeah.
You know? Things can get axed. Jeez, I gotta run and watch all the shows before something happens. I gotta have Disney Plus for the Star Wars shows. I gotta watch every Star Wars show, even if it's not good. I'm gonna be watching it, okay?
Are you excited?
I'm committed to this. What's the new one?
Isn't it what's it called? It's not Argoyle, it's something like, let me see what it's called.
Argoyle.
Dude.
I'm pretty open on Saturday too, because I'm always like trying to get everything done early, and then I'm always like just I don't know how everybody gets ahead. Everybody's so smart. Everybody's like getting ahead and stuff. I do have this like choir thing that's at like 2, but I'll probably just not go because I'm always trying to get my stuff in, you know what I mean? Like, so realistically, I'm pretty open.
Okay, so maybe ideally not 2 p.m., but
yeah, but also I could just see myself like not doing that too. That was like part of the problem with the job too, is that it was like on Saturday and I was like, ooh, like we'll see, and maybe I'll just be able to like get ahead and get everything done early, but I always feel like it's Saturday and I'm like, why is it always like this? I try to make it not be like that and stuff. So it's the same thing. I just yeah, I have this group of friends that are like, yay, choir, and they're like, you're great, and I'm like, thanks. And also, you know, like super fun, and my mental health is also important, but also I'm just like, I got this done. Yeah.
So if we do it before your choir and I help you get your assignment done, then you could go to choir. Take care of your mental health. We could do it before 2 p.m. then. Like what about like I'm trying to think. I'm 2 hours earlier. So nothing before 9 a.m. I feel like 10 a.m. is like the earliest I can commit to being a human being.
Uh-huh.
So that would be noon your time. What if it was at noon?
Yeah.
Dude, we're gonna look at doing noon.
That's 1 p.m. my time because I'm in Eastern right now.
Oh, are you in Eastern? I thought we were all Central. You all were Central.
I live in Nebraska, but right now.
But right now you're Eastern. That makes sense.
Where are you now in your little star chair? What state are you in? I always think that's so interesting. It's like none of my business, but
I'm in Georgia.
You're in Georgia.
I just tried their sweet tea. Good Lord, that's the greatest thing that's ever invented. It's so good.
It's mostly sugar.
That's the only way to drink sweet tea. I'm in Tennessee, so
That's awesome.
Way over here in Nevada, we do not have sweet tea.
Oh.
I
Sounds
lived
great
in-
though. I want
When I was in Massachusetts, they're like, what are you talking about? What is this sweet tea you speak of? It's iced tea. There's no such
Yeah,
thing
that's
as
all we
sweet
have.
tea.
You
Yeah.
just put in like a gallon of sugar and then you're good to go.
Amazing. I want
Actually,
it.
I can't even drink sweet tea anymore. Like when I did keto, it completely killed me from ever drinking sweet tea. Now I only drink unsweet tea. It's ruined.
No,
That's
nothing unsweetened. I want everything sweetened to the max. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I have the taste buds of a 2-year-old child. And I need.
Me too. I could just keep going with the sugar thing, and people are like, "Oh, it just like after you get 2 bites of something, then it's too sweet, right?" And I'm just like, "No, I feel like a 8-year-old on Halloween where people are like, you should stop eating that," and me being like, "But it's so good."
Yeah. Yes. See,
I'm immature.
this is why tech companies like always will like bring donuts or something to work, and I'm like, how many donuts can I take?
As many as you want.
Ruby's got candy. That's good stuff. I'm just saying, candy and
These Jolly
programming they can go
Ranchers?
there.
I've never heard of these Jolly Ranchers, but this is like fruit punch. There's mango. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh!
They're stepping it up. That's smart of them because
And Twinkies coffee exists. I went to a
What?
place.
What?
It was amazing. I was like,
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Twinkies coffee.
Like, so that's the coffee that's flavored like Twinkies, or like that's crazy.
I had this kind of feel
Is
like
it
a thing.
delicious though?
It was amazing. It's better
was
than
amazing.
Starbucks.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, now I need to go to Georgia. Next vacation, Georgia.
We're going to Georgia. Can we all come visit you? I love traveling. Like,
We're all gonna show up at Ruby's store. By the way, when she has the baby, if she'll let you, show us pictures. Baby pictures. I want them all. Demand
I'll
them.
show you the
I mean,
five-year-old.
if she's okay sharing them, babies, love babies.
So I
Are
wake
you
up
kidding?
and-
You're a mom. They love it. I can't believe you were
Oh.
like blah 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 Disney movie, and I'm like, Natalie sounds like such a mom right now. It's like she's totally giving herself away. She's like Dory and like, and what
You know what?
What?
Yes.
It's like I
true.
can tell. How old is your kid? Like 3 or something? I'm just like
I have 3 children.
Oh,
They
you have
are
3 kids. No wonder.
Yep.
Because I was like,
Look,
did she just say that she had a kid like not that long ago? I was like, are they even like old enough to be like watching all this Disney Plus? But if you got 3 of them,
yeah. Look,
How old are
I'm
they?
passionate.
Tell us
I
about
go
it.
hard. They are 7, almost 5, and almost 3. They are crazy.
Wow.
The golden
Just
years.
imagine- Like, are they golden?
That's the best. When they're
That's-
16, they drive.
Oh, do you have kids, Daniel?
Just one.
And is he
How old?
16?
He's 16, yeah.
But isn't that the thing though? Is that like parents at that point, they're like, I am tired of taking you to like all of the practices and stuff,
Mm.
and like get your license and go make your own bad decisions. Isn't that kind of like having kids?
I'm not sure they
I
say it
don't
quite
have
like
kids.
that.
You can tell by the way that I talk. You know, it's so bad.
Go
But
make some bad
cute.
decisions.
I really like
Here's a
when
guy.
other people have kids, though. They're cute. They're fun. Ooh, that seems so.
Uh, Dude,
I'm
I'm
not,
not
that
ready
much
for
older
teenagers.
than your son. Like,
Hmm?
I'm not that much older than your son. My brother
How
is
old are you?
19. How old am I? Do you want to take
Yeah.
a guess before I tell you?
Your brain is still intact. No, I'm old, and I'm just like, why do I? And that's it. It's because I'm an old dog, learning new tricks.
Like,
You are not. I'm sorry. Are you 90?
Me?
Because you look amazing for 90.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. People tell me that all the time. No, but
Dude,
how old
I
are
haven't-
all you guys though?
I've had people in my class in their 60s. You got this. You're not an old dog.
I know.
Even 60 isn't old. 90's old though. Jeez.
That's only a
90's
3
soft.
difference though. Only.
We gotta get this on the recording.